Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Charane Nirvishesha Shunyavati Paschitade Karane Hare Nama Hare Nama Eva Evalam Kalo Nasteva 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 Gatiranyata Pancha Kalpa Karivyascha Kripasindavariyasha Patitan Navayyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. It's a great pleasure for us to be with you this evening. What is this place called, Arjuna?
Mont Saint André.
Mont Saint André. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Mont Saint André. We're very happy to be here. We're very happy to be here in this temple of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. We're very happy to be here in all of your association. We're particularly happy to be here in the association of Prabhu Arjuna. You will not believe that Arjuna and I have been friends for minimum 45 years now. That's a long time, 45 years. Many of you are not even 45 years old. And Arjuna and I met in very austere circumstances in Vrindavan back in 1977. And he was performing a very, very austere service of assisting. He was one of the original devotees who was given responsibility and took responsibility for the development of Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi in Vrindavan. And I guess other construction activities also. But India 45 years ago was really a different situation than it is now. And to get anything done was about 1 million times more difficult than it is to get something done now. And Arjuna Prabhu, he would go to Rajasthan in the burning heat, and he would go to the marble mines, and he would sort out the best marbles for Srila Prabhupada's constructions. And he stayed there for some time, and then he came back here and has been working so many years for the benefit of the Mauritian Yatra. So it's very wonderful to have the association of my dear God brother, and to have all of your association here in Mauritius. I used to come more frequently, and then for about maybe the past 15 or 17 years, I only visited a few times. But Mauritius was always a place where the devotees were so warm, and the devotees were so hospitable, and the devotees were so eager for this process of Krishna consciousness, the process of developing our natural love for Krishna simply based on the activities of hearing about Krishna and chanting his glories. I've observed many times over the years that people, they come to this process and they're looking for some, people know, people read Srila Prabhupada's books, and people understand that we're in a beginning position of bhakti, and we're supposed to come to a higher and a more advanced position of bhakti. And our acharyas have told us that the process is quite straightforward. They told us that we should have good association with saintly Vaishnavas. They've told us that we should have association with devotees who have a taste for Krishna consciousness. And despite the fact that Srila Prabhupada is saying that Krishna consciousness is quite simple for those who are simple, and it becomes complicated for people who are complicated, still we find that many times people forget the sort of like the basic guidelines or the fundamental principles. And what that is Krishna will be revealed to us through the process of chanting and through the process of hearing in proportion to our purity and our intent on which we engage in that activity. It's not that Krishna can ever be understood in any other way. In the Bhagavad Gita, he states, Bhakti-mama vijanati yavanyas-chasmi tattva. He says it is by bhakti that I can be known, only by bhakti. Krishna never informs us that we can know him by simply performance of tapasya. He informs us that we cannot know him by simply doing karmas. We cannot know him by performance of pious activities. We cannot know Krishna just by cultivation of knowledge. I will turn my phone on silent. Everybody else turn their phone on silent. Okay, I keep my phone on silent most of the time. All of these different activities, being pious in life, being learned in life, being renounced in life, becoming spiritually educated, they all have their benefit. But what will induce Krishna, or what will encourage Krishna to show himself to us is our loving devotion. And that loving devotion is primarily manifest in the activities of chanting. Chanting purely. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Namas Chintamani Krishna, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Purnakshudo Nityamukto Vinat Nam Nayanano. He said that the holy name, the name of Krishna is alive. And it's conscious. And just like Krishna is Purna and Shuddha and Nityamukta, the name is Purna and Shuddha and Nityamukta. And Rupa Goswami says, Vinat Nam Nami Namana. That's because the name and Krishna are the same. There's not a difference between Krishna and his holy name. So for us, it's a matter of chanting purely. And chanting with the intent that that our sole purpose is to glorify Krishna. Our sole purpose is to give pleasure to Krishna. What does bhakti mean? Bhakti means we take our senses and we use our senses in relationship to Krishna's senses to make Krishna happy. Everything for Krishna. So when we speak for Krishna. When we sing for Krishna. When we discuss for Krishna. When we work for Krishna. And then that purification will take place. And when the heart is purified, then one day when we will chant, by the grace of the Lord, He will bestow His causeless mercy upon us. The entire spiritual realm will become open. My friend, BB Govinda Swami, everybody loves BB Govinda Swami so much. And he's so famous throughout the world for all of his glorious and really transcendental festivals which he conducts, and he does everything in such a high-class way, and he does it where people are so attracted. And always when he gives his talk at the conclusion of one of those festivals, he always reminds the people that what we experience in this chanting, what we experience in this festival, that is actually what the life in the spiritual world is. And he always cites that Brahma Samhita where he says, every step is a dance, and every word is a song. So we as devotees, we have to have that real foundational faith that this is what we need to do. We need to chant Hare Krishna nicely. And we have to read about Krishna nicely. Last night we were at the Phoenix Temple, and we were mentioning the activities of the discussion between Srila Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. And we mentioned the Narada Muni's revelation of the Lord when he sat down and he meditated, and immediately Sri Krishna appeared on the lotus of his heart. And then Sri Krishna disappeared. And Sri Krishna told him, he said, because you're not perfect yet, and because you still have some material taints. It's like the word Prabhupada uses in his translation is taints, meaning like some discoloration, some impurity. He said, you won't see me again in this life. He said, but I've appeared in front of you to increase your hankering for me. And he said, because Krishna tells him, he says, because the more you hanker for me, then the more you'll become free from your material desires. So that's why it's really nice to come together with devotees and to chant and to develop some taste and start to hanker in that way and to want in that way and to think in that way. Like somebody was asking me a question today. They were giving reference to verse 8 from Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamritam. And there he says, Tannam Rupa Charitari Sukirtana Anu. smrito krimena rasana manasinyo jan. Tishtan braje tad anuragi jananagami. Kalam nayet akilam iti upades sar. And he says that the sar, or the essence of all of the activities of bhakti, is that we very nicely hear and chant about Krishna 24 hours a day. That's the essence. It's not some sort of mystical rocket science or some sort of high esoteric thing that we have to do tapasya for 100 million years to understand. He said just the essence. They always chant, but do it nicely. Do it, free from defects. Do it free from making mistakes. Somebody's being naughty. Who has that naughty telephone? Naughty telephone. So he says, do it nicely, 24 hours a day. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. Hear the name of the Lord. Hear about the form of the Lord. Hear about the qualities of the Lord. And then, by doing that in the Lila of Krishna, one day will be shown to us. And Rupa Goswami says, that by doing this nice hearing and chanting 24 hours a day, he says you attain perfection in yoga. Now we have to remember that we are doing yoga. Many times we think that we're doing social flow, but actually it's yoga. It's bhakti yoga. And he says that simply by doing this, your mind will become fixed, and your senses will become controlled. And Prabhupada speaks about how that uncontrolled mind is such a dangerous situation, because at any time, any of our senses, they become attractive, not controlled, and we can fall down again into material life. So Tannamarupa Sukirtana Anu Smrito Krimena Rasana Manasi Yoja. We get perfection in yoga. And then he says, Tishtan Paraje Tad Anuragi Jan Anugami. He says, and then when you become advanced in devotional service, naturally you will want to be like those people who live in the Goloka Vrindavan. We won't want to be like Americans or Mauritians any longer. We won't want to just be fulfilling the idiosyncrasies of being men or women or a particular caste or a creed, but we'll actually want to be amongst the inhabitants of Goloka Vrindavan, and we will want to follow in their footsteps because they really understand how best to serve Krishna. They have gone through all the training courses, they have gone through all of the degrees, they have practiced perfectly for forever. Some of them just coming up to perfectional position, some of them eternally perfect. But we can associate with those people, and then we'll learn how to penetrate deeply into the science of bhakti. So I will just, before we have kirtan, I will just read one verse. We mentioned last night Narada Muni speaking about his revelation and his perfection to Srila Vyasadeva. And this is what Narada tells Srila Vyasadeva. The Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to hear, at once appears on the seat of my heart, as if called for, as soon as I begin to chant his holy name. Isn't that nice? That if we really have the good heart, we have the pure heart, we have the pure consciousness, we have that pure spirit of devotion to Guru Maharaj, we have that pure spirit of devotion to our Guru Parampara. As soon as we chant the holy name, Sri Krishna appears on the heart as if he was called. He said, as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities, this happens. So this is what Srila Prabhupada says. The absolute personality of Godhead is not different from his transcendental name, form, pastimes, and sound vibration thereof. As soon as the pure devotee engages himself in the pure devotional service of hearing, chanting, and remembering the name, fame, and activities of the Lord, at once the Lord becomes visible to the transcendental eyes of the pure devotee by reflecting himself on the mirror of the heart by spiritual television. Nice, Prabhupada says spiritual television Krishna uses. Therefore, a pure devotee who is related to the Lord in loving transcendental service can experience the presence of the Lord at every moment. All we have to do is chant purely, and we can have his Sangha at every moment, and we can see him at every moment. It is natural psychology in every individual case that a person likes to hear and enjoy his personal glories enumerated by others. That is a natural instinct. And the Lord, being also an individual personality like others, is not an exception to this psychology, because psychological characteristics visible in the individual souls are but reflections of the same psychology and the absolute truth. So it's just like any of you young men, when you're going to be married, and the young lady that you're going to be married, she glorifies you with words, and you feel so good. And any of you young girls, you have a husband and he glorifies you with nice words, you feel so good. And here says Krishna's the same way. Krishna hears us glorifying him with nice words. Krishna feels so happy, because he's an individual also. He's a supreme individual. And so he says that it is not an exception to this psychology, because psychological characteristics visible in the individual souls are but reflections of the same psychology in the absolute Lord. The only difference is that the Lord is the greatest personality of all and absolute in all of his affairs. If therefore the Lord is attracted by the pure devotee's chanting of his glories, it is nothing astonishing. Since he is absolute, he can appear himself even in the picture of his glorification, the two things being identical. Srila Narada Muni chants the glorification of the Lord not for his personal benefit, but for glorifications but because the glorifications are identical with the Lord. Narada Muni penetrates into the presence of the Lord by the transcendental chanting. So in the same way, we can follow in the footsteps of Srila Narada Muni, and we can penetrate into the transcendental existence of the Lord by having Harinam Sankirtan. And so without further ado, we will chant. Thank you all for coming this evening. By Krishna's grace, by Radha Shyam's grace, we have a wonderful team that has come down to Mauritius with us. We have Kinshana Krishna Prabhu and his wife Rati Manjari. They have come down, and we have the two brothers, Anandamurti and Yogendra. We have Radharaman Priya. He's from Russia. He's from born in a devotee family, and for the past year or so, he's lived in Vrindavan. He was always engaged in ashram activities and preaching in Russia, and now he's living in Brahmachari ashram in Vrindavan and engaged in Harinam Sankirtan. And we have Shiv Charan, who is my personal assistant. He's also from Russia. And we have Sri Gopi Ballabha. He is from Kazakhstan. He's another one of these people who's been a devotee ever since he appeared in the world. You know, it's a nice feeling when you can travel and you can have a team of people who have been devotees ever since they were born. And today we had this fine gentleman come down and join us. His name is Parth. He is from Gurugram, outside just by Delhi Airport, that whole area, Gurgaon. His parents are my disciples. His granny is my disciple, and Parth is a university student, and he finished his first year, and he wanted to know if he could join us somewhere this summer. And I told him, I said, well, we're going to Mauritius, convince your parents. And since Parth is excellent at debate, we sat down and had discussion with his parents, and he said, I'm on my way. So he arrived today. So we have a nice team. We're happy to be here, so let's chant Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hare Krishna. A few things that I guess we have to clarify is last night one of the Prabhus who were introducing us over at Radha Govinda Temple, he was talking about how we're professional musicians. We're not professional musicians. None of us are professional anything, really. We just like to chant Hare Krishna. And another thing is always, it's a good reminder, Prabhu last night he said when he was talking about our performance, and it's, we don't do performances. You know, if we did performances, we would charge, but we don't charge. So what we're doing is kirtan, and naturally, we're materialistic, so we have to take some payment. So the payment is just your enthusiasm and your chanting and your kirtan, okay? But we're not professionals, we're not doing a performance, we're doing what Narada Muni and the previous acharyas like to do, is to sit and glorify Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.